Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting for April 3rd, 2012. We'll begin with our salute to the flag, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Mrs. Pullen, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Galloway?
Here.
Mr. Snipes?
Here.
Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dents?
Here.
Mr. Rocco?
Okay, for the record, Mr. Rocco is not here this evening. He had a prior family commitment, so he obviously sends his regrets. And I guess if there's a meeting to miss, it's probably this one, considering how brief everything is. So we're going to start, well, actually, want to begin actually on a sad note. As many people know, there was a very tragic fire in the Elderberry section of Falls Township the other day, and a young man lost his life. And his grandfather he lived with, I know, is in the hospital. I don't know if there's any update on his condition, but you know, we're very fortunate in this township. We don't usually suffer these kinds of tragedies, and we're grateful for that. And we hope certainly that we continue to face very, very, very few of these. None of them forever would be nice. But I think it's appropriate just to have a moment of silence in memory of the young man who lost his life in the house fire. Okay, thank you. I know there's some collections being taken. I've read that in the paper. Some of the people on that street taking up collections. I don't know, hoping maybe for some more information in the newspaper. I know they were going to, I think, open up an account at a local bank for that money. So hopefully, if we get any of that information, we'll try and make it available to people. First item on our agenda tonight is to consider landscaping bids for the 2012 for township facilities. Mr. Gray?
On Thursday, March 29th, township representatives opened sealed bids for landscaping services for township properties for the year 2012. The results are as follows. CNS Cleaning Services, $18,275. DJ's Outdoor Creations, $24,269. Dell Lawn Maintenance, $29,475. Clover IPM Landscaping and Maintenance, $38,880. And Greenscape Landscape Contractor, $47,410. Based on the bid results, CNS Cleaning Company is the lowest responsible bidder. It is recommended the Board of Supervisors award the contract to CNS Cleaning Company for the landscaping services for Falls Township for 2012.
Okay, thank you. We'll have some board comments, and then we'll open for public comment. Mr. Galloway?
No comment this time.
Mr. Snipes?
I just wanted to see if there was a comment from the manager or anyone else about the difference in these quotes between the lowest. Well, the lowest is less than half of what the highest is, and I wonder if you might comment on. Do you have any thoughts on? Did they think they were bidding on the same things, or what?
We made all the information available to all the bidders and the bid specs. I believe several of the bidders did come out and review the locations that we have. Why there's differences, I couldn't explain that.
I don't know whether we have a detailed breakdown of.
We did have, our Public Works foreman did give, I believe it was 2 of the companies, tours of all of our facilities as well. So they did have an idea of what to expect when they prepared their bid.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dents?
No comments.
Okay. This CNS Cleaning Services is a company we have not used before, and I was wanted to see if Mr. Gray, seeing this as a new company, do we know where this company is operating out of?
They're from Ben Salem.
Okay. And obviously, when you see bid this low, as Mr. Snipes pointed out, considerably low, considerably lower than some of the other bids. Want to make sure that obviously this is a company that knows what they're doing, But did you check out references for this company?
Yes, they provided 3 references. We were able to secure 2 references early on, and references came out fine. And I did receive one late in the day today, and that one also checked out fine as well.
Okay. And was this one of the companies that met with Mr. Arneo, our Public Works foreman?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And what were his thoughts regarding their qualifications? Did he feel like they knew what they were talking about when they're asking questions? Is this...
Yes, I did receive a memo from Mr. Arneo. He found they were knowledgeable with all the requirements of the specifications and extremely knowledgeable with the landscape information that were provided. So
Okay.
he was fine with it.
All right. I know you see, CNS Cleaning Services, and you see they bid on a landscaping bid. It sort of raises some questions, but it is a company that does landscaping work in other places. So for whatever reason, CNS Cleaning Services, maybe they started out as a cleaning service and kept that name, and they've branched into other fields. But we've done our due diligence in taking a look at their qualifications and their references, and they do check out. Any other comments or questions from board members?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. It might be helpful for all of us just to hear really quickly which areas specifically will they be working on around the Township building? Do they do 3 arches, or where are they headed?
The locations included in the bid specs included the Township Administration Building. That would be out front along Lincoln Highway, on the atrium side of the building as well. Also Fallsington Park, the gazebo, mulches, and the various flower beds out there. At the community park, that's the small bed by the concession stand in Phase 1, and in Phase 2 adjacent to the pavilion and the entrance to Mill Creek Parkway. Also at Austin Drive Sports Complex, the walkways, the ball fields, maintaining the warning tracks. The Mill Creek Sports Complex also, that would be around the flagpole. And also at the Township Public Works area, in the back, there's a berm, and they would maintain the berm, make sure that there's no weeds or anything else growing out of the berm itself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
No.
No. Is any public comment needed? See one hand. Is there motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Dell?
Wish these guys luck on making any profit with that proposal, because I'll be honest with you, I went over my pricing, shaved a lot more money off because I was like, you know what, I live in the township, it's extra work, it'll keep my guys busy. I came in bare bones, and these guys are coming from Ben Salem to here, and they're going to do all of the same work. I don't see it happening. Who oversees the quality control of all this? Or Joe Arneo?
It would be Mr. Arneo would be
Okay.
overseeing, yeah.
All right. Now, if these guys don't show up for all the visits and don't perform the work, how long before you guys get rid of them, if they don't do it?
What's, sure there's obviously, if they're defaulting on the work we're hiring them for,
The performance bond requires a period of time where they're given the opportunity to cure, and then if they're not, on a contract such as this, which is a seasonal contract, we're able to, if the bonding company doesn't cure, then we're able to discontinue our contract with them and then hire someone to do the work in place of them.
is there a time frame we have to give them? Or
Normally, and I don't have the language in front of me, I think normally when they're not, you have to give them notice when they haven't completed one of the tasks under the contract, and then there is a certain period of time where they have to cure. I would imagine that it's probably in the 15 to 30-day range because of the nature of this contract.
Okay.
Because in these bid specs, you guys realize there's almost 200 cubic yards of mulch to be installed. If you're familiar with quantities, that's
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's usually 2 giant 100-foot or 90-foot tractor trailers or 3 of the smaller tractor trailers plus edging, weeding, maintaining. I'm not denying that these guys are a landscape company, or maybe I'm not saying their quality of work is bad, but I think what happens is if you misbid or misjudge, and we've all done it, have all made mistakes, they're going to get partway into this job and go, oh my God, we've already soaked up all of our labor. There's no more money in this job, and it's June,
July. Yeah,
July.
right.
And the other question I had is, I know I recommended you guys probably use black dyed mulch and that wasn't in your bid spec. Was there any specific reason you don't want that type of mulch here?
Was it a cost issue, Mr. Gray, with the black dye, or just was,
This is what Mr. Arneo and I had spoken about.
Because you see how gray your mulch looks now. The black dye is still going to look dark this time of year. It might not be as black as it is when you initially put it in, but it lasts like 6 or 7 months.
That's last year's mulch, right?
Correct. But you got to remember, that last year's mulch wasn't put until August, maybe July or August. It wasn't, put until late. So, I mean, you don't get a longevity. It's not the quality of the mulch that the contractor's using. It's the nature of triple ground mulch, period. Any triple ground mulch, it grays out once the sun beats on it long enough. The black dye makes it, and it's not that much more expensive. It's maybe, $5 a cubic yard. And for that money, I think you get a lot of value, a lot of out of that. So you may want to consider it, even if you allow that person, whoever does this job, to increase their price according to the difference. I think it's well worth the money spent. But I just had to question that because that price is ridiculously low, and I just didn't know if it was a cleaning service that subbed this work out to somebody else, or this cleaning service, building cleaning service, or
I'm not sure.
They do a lot of property maintenance, it looks like.
Yeah.
okay,
And all kinds of, so I
it
think
might-
maybe they started as doing just cleaning, but they
Right.
do a lot of property maintenance.
okay.
It
And
might
their
be,
references all checked out that they do landscaping.
They
it
do
might
large
be-
properties or just residential?
Yeah,
Okay.
mostly commercial, it's all commercial.
So they know what they're getting themselves into. I just,
Presumably,
I was just
yeah.
curious to see a bid like that. I expect a bid like that maybe more from someone more local who could afford to shave some more money, but not someone who's sort of out of town. But those are the questions I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Yeah.
just so there's not any confusion, Mr. Dell made reference to the fact that maybe if there's not profitable, they're going to walk away. And I know that's probably a popular thing to try to say, but it happens very infrequently. A company like this, if they walked away from this bid and found it to be in default, it would really prevent them from bidding on a whole host of other jobs for municipal contracts in the future, because they would not be a responsible bidder because they walked away from a job. What we find more often when somebody has underbid a job is they don't bid again the following year. They take their losses and they move on. The frequency with which somebody just walks away from a job is very rare.
And when you say, just to clarify, hold on, I'm sorry. Just to clarify, when you say that by walking away, that's going to basically make it almost impossible for them to bid again on other municipal jobs. You're not just talking about us. You're talking about all over the place.
I'm talking and Mr. Sullivan could talk about this when he does this work in his other municipalities. When you do your investigation, if they have defaulted on another job, that is the basis to determine that they are not a responsible bidder, and you can throw their bid out on other jobs, whether that's Ben Salem, whether that's Middletown, whether that's White Marsh Township in Montgomery County, Plymouth Township in Montgomery County. So it's very rare that it happens.
That's the nature of our responsible contractor ordinance, that's one of the stipulations. Some places don't have that because they don't think they need it. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Sullivan can
Well,
comment.
there is a list of defaulted or non-verified contractors kept by the county. So that's easy to find. That's one of the items in our checklist of our responsible contractor qualification form.
Right.
Is have you defaulted in a contract in the last 3 to 5 years, I think.
So, yeah, so they'd really be putting themselves, in a bad position. No, and it's a good question. It's a good question. Yes, sir.
DJ Sarach with Outdoor Creations. A couple questions. There's obviously more work this year than previous years, correct?
Is this
Than
bid,
last year?
it is
Yeah,
different?
probably a little
Okay.
bit more, yes.
I just couldn't remember from last year.
Like last year it was approximately 20,000. This year it's 18. I mean, if you're putting more plants, more flowers, more mulch, how does the price go down?
Well, I mean, it's kind of going back to the same question Mr. Dell had. How were they able to bid so low? And that's, again, one of the first things we did was check their references and found that they, this is work that they do, and so they have some experience, and as you said, they know what they're getting into. They're putting a bid down on paper, and we're accepting it, and it's basically legally binding. So, if they've ended up hurting themselves by bidding too low, it's on them,
We
really.
also can't just deny them because we think they're too low and they don't know
Right.
what they're
No,
doing.
that's fine,
not
but-
an
Yeah,
option.
we can't do that.
It's my understanding that no other contractors had any questions. If you look at the last page of the bid sheet, there's numerous questions that should have arose. 5-gallon mums. Never seen a 5-gallon mum. Mr. Snipes, I mean, you've been in the plant industry. How often do you see 5-gallon mum pots?
Actually, I didn't see that detail. Where do they have that? Or do
Should
we
be
have that?
where all the prices are.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in the bid specifications. Yeah, I know in terms of the questions, I know you and I had spoken, and, in talking with Mr. Gray and talking with the solicitor as well, was, the process of raising questions for the bids, which I was unaware of, and so I apologize if, I didn't know until after I talked to you, like a day after I talked to you, was that it has to be done in writing, has to be done a certain time.
No, that's fine. I mean, it's just some of these things.
Yeah, I don't know. Did they ask a question? I know they came in, they met with Mr. Arneo, and they got a tour of the facility, which obviously you wouldn't have needed, Mr. Dell wouldn't have needed. So, I mean, I don't know if they asked questions. They may have asked them just of him in the process of going around. Did they provide any written questions of any kind? Or
I received no written questions, no.
okay,
What is a 5-gallon mum?
That's a big mum.
A plant?
It's
Yeah,
a
mums. Chris
In a
said-
5-gallon.
Oh, in a 5-gallon. Oh, I got you.
that's still big.
and just other questions like the falls cypress and stuff like that. There's no sizes. There's actually no variety of the name or anything like that to know what size, to know anything else or where it's going. Nobody knows where it's actually going to be installed or anything like that. So I don't know how you price certain things out.
Okay. No, I mean, I understand your points you're making, and we'll wait and see. I mean, they might do a great job, and
Mr. Arneo would be watching.
no, we might be paying overtime to Mr. Arneo that'll make
we'll
up,
make it up on that,
make it
right.
up. I don't know, but again, the bid from everything we can tell is a legitimate bid, and so. And I know we've had issues with this before in terms of bidding this, and I know it's difficult to, with everything we're trying to do in terms of, we obviously can't put real specific locations of exactly every plant, but we're trying to get an idea of, we're trying, hopefully doing a little bit better every year, being a little bit more specific with what we're doing, which is the goal. And I obviously appreciate the 5 companies that bid, obviously yours and Mr. Dell's, as well as these other couple others here. And we'll have to see what happens.
One more. Is there any reason that the Public Works gets maintained weekly and the front of the building is bi-weekly?
That's just the way it came out on the form. I mean,
Is that Mr. Arneo's recommendation,
Joey
or?
makes that, yeah.
we've always had, I believe it's always been for the berm in the back, general weekly maintenance. In the front, we did switch it this year to bi-weekly. It's just the way we put it in this year.
Okay.
All right, that's fine.
Okay. Yep. All right.
Other than that, if I can ask you, was it pretty clear this year of what we wanted? I mean, I know in years past, there's been,
It could use a little improvement, but it's not hideous, but
it's a lot better than it was.
it was better than it was. You're guys are
A job
75%.
meeting at the beginning of the year, whoever wants the bid has to all show up at the same time. Everybody walks around. So whoever has questions, everybody's around.
Okay.
These guys
All right.
have been on the same thing, that's for sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you. It's good input.
They did take a tour with Joey Arneo.
Yeah. So.
You were
Are there any other questions?
You were high, so,
No. Okay.
yeah, okay.
All right. So motion to close public comment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, so we're looking at awarding the landscaping contract for the 2012 Township properties to CNS Cleaning Services in the amount of $18,275. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Vince?
Yes.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is public comment. Mr. Gray coming up here. All right, a couple of names on the lists. Mr. Dell, you're up first.
I'm going to pass for now.
Okay. Mr. Dell passes. Mr. Mariani.
Mr. Chairman, at our last meeting, you felt that some of the residents' comments insinuated that possibly members of this board didn't care about the township and as a consequence were careless with our fiscal future. I'm sure you recall me standing here on more than one occasion and saying that I believe that this is a well-run township. I've said that more than one time and have a lot of confidence in our professionals. I purchased 2 homes here in Falls. The reason why I did, because I do think you guys do care about this township, and personally, I think every supervisor here cares about the township as much as I do, because I really do care, or I wouldn't attend these meetings.
True.
However, and there is a however, naturally.
I knew that was coming.
You knew that was coming, didn't you? Okay. But it's not a bad one, it's a good one. That you care about the township, of course, doesn't make you immune from criticism when a resident like myself feels you've made a bad judgment. Now, I want to say a word about the budgets. Now, budget is generally used to protect future income and expenses. And the most obvious budgeting goal is to control and evaluate things that go on. Now, it allows a certain degree of control over costs so that they don't take place when these costs are not budgeted for. And although I'm a stickler on budgets, I also understand you don't want to be too much of a stickler because then it becomes counterproductive and it could hurt you. But a budget does give you a benchmark by which you could evaluate your departments and then evaluate the managers of those departments. Now, on budgets, a couple of questions. Police department budget, $374,000 for various police purchases, and we went through them, the K-9, the computer equipment, firearms training. Will it be reduced by the county grant of $216,779? The senior center budget of $1.2 million, which we went over before, is that going to be reduced by $385,000 and change from the community development block grant? If it isn't, then I'm telling you it should. That's over $600,000, just those two items. Now, also during the last meeting, and I'll ask you for an answer to that, Mr. Snipes, I think, used, by questioning Mr. Gray, our township community park maintenance cost as a comparison, probably, for future maintenance costs for Biles Island. And that's certainly not it's just not a valid comparison. Also, when Mr. Gray gave him that answer, I don't recall Mr. Gray mentioning the $302,000 that we're going to spend on that community park this year. So it's not a valid comparison. One has nothing to do with the other. The last question I've had is, how do you lose $210,000 if you don't pursue a grant? Now, recall, I think it was Mr. Snipes says, we're going to lose that $210,000. And that's very common when you get involved with this sharing the costs and seeking a grant. How I understand this, actually, we're going to spend $320,000 to get the work ready, then another $100,000 for an application, is the way I understood that last week. Then we'll receive the $210,000 if the DCNR awards the grant. If it don't, it's our nut, right?
No, actually, if we don't get the grant, none of that work moves forward. Or, I mean, it'll move forward on a very much...
but it will move forward, regardless of the time. It will move forward. We will spend the money.
In the long run. I mean, one of the issues and one of the reasons why we had sort of a split board on it was that the DCNR wanted us to sort of commit to doing a lot more work up front than we wanted to do. Now, I think my point, and we disagreed, and that was fine, but my point was that it's work we're going to have to do anyway. But
it's work you have to do if you want to get involved.
But that other work, that longer, sort of long-term work that really runs up a lot of the costs, doing a study of the river, for example, and everything else, that's not work that we're going to do this year or even next year if the grant doesn't come through.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we actually didn't spend any money last meeting, right?
Right.
Going for this application, we haven't spent a dime on it.
But
And
you're going to.
We're not paying for the application.
Eventually, you're
either.
going to. The point is...
If we get the application, we'll proceed, maybe not. We'll
You'll
take it on its
proceed
merit at
without,
that
even
point.
without the application. What the chairman is saying is just going to take a little longer. So that's the way I understand it, and I think that's the way you explained it, Mr. Chairman.
Is the costs are going to be spread out more, and probably if some of these studies are things we don't do till 3 or 4 or 5 years down. Let's just say the grant doesn't come through, and we do a study 5 years down the line instead of doing it a year and a half down the line, it's going to cost us more money 5 years down the line to do it than it would if we did it. So, I mean, and, you know, we've had these discussions too with the road program. Does it pay to do a bigger chunk of it now than to spread it out and add another year or two to the program?
Well, the
when maybe it's
road
more
program
expensive?
to me is a different expenditure altogether.
Well, I understand. I'm using
This
a cost. I understand you. And,
I know,
and
you know where I'm coming from.
I absolutely, I understand.
Now, since this project is not in our budget, even the initial stages, where does the money come from?
I believe the initial stages are, I think we did budget for some work on Biles Island for this year for some of the engineering work, didn't we?
I don't recall. I'd have to.
And we're talking about monies that might be spent over the next 3 years, so we don't have a budget for that either right now.
You know, I was pretty sure we knew we were going to do some work on Phase 1 this year. I think we did budget some money this year for that.
I'll tell you the truth, I looked at that budget, and I didn't see that.
Okay.
Okay, but if it isn't in the budget, I can tell you exactly where it's going to come from. It's going to come from host fees. Now, again, I'm going to say, I think this board is so accustomed, and it's so easy, that money's so available from host fees, that if indeed this money, this initial expenditure is going to come from host fees, you've already used all the host fees that are available for 2012. You would actually be taking money from future host fees. You already committed all the host fees that are going to come in for 2012. So, again, I'm going to suggest to you, and this is the last thing I'm going to say tonight, please, we should start budgeting in this township without the inclusion of host fees, period, for normal operating expenses. I'm not talking about road projects and things like that. I understand that we've got this host fees coming in, so on. That doesn't destroy the host fees. It's just that, you know, that's something that's above and beyond a normal expense, and sometimes you get hit with that. But that doing your budget that way is a restraint on spending money. It's a control, and I wish we'd start budgeting that way. And thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I do, just a couple things. I want to answer some of your questions, because you asked about the grants. In terms of the grants, I mean, you talked about, I mean, it was roughly $300,000 we had budgeted for SWAT and for a new police dog and for training and for a lot of equipment, as well as the money we budgeted for the senior center. We essentially budget as if the grant isn't there, simply because we're not totally sure we're going to get it.
I understand that.
And so once that grant was awarded, basically we used the grant money instead of the money necessarily we budgeted for it. Same thing with the senior center. I mean, we budgeted an amount to cover the costs. You know, with that county grant for $380 or $385,000. When that money comes in, that doesn't mean we're going to be spending 1.5 or 1.585. It doesn't mean that. And, you know, that money, you're correct, will be sort of deducted. It'll be less money that we have to spend.
The $600,000, which is a lot of money, should go back into the reserves, since we've already taken $1 million out of our reserve this year simply to balance the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's, and in terms of criticism, I mean, obviously I can take criticism. I've been married almost 16 years, so I'm very accustomed to it.
You're married 16 years. Your wife is going to go to heaven without having to die.
Well,
you got that?
I understand. Trust me.
Listen, we can both give it out, and you and I, we can both take it.
Yes, you can.
That's why we get along.
Thank you very much. All right. Oh, Mr. Dell's decided to. Okay.
Just a quick clarification, because exactly what Guido was talking about. You guys did award $420,000 to ACT Engineering to proceed, correct?
No.
You didn't last meeting?
No. What we did last week was we approved their application for a grant, which we may or may not get.
Okay.
And DCNR requires us to basically come up with, all right, how much is the grant, what's it cover? Mm-hmm. And essentially what they prepared was what DCNR told them to prepare. So they're basically saying, we want to see you do A, B, C, D, and so ACT
they want a
budgeted
master
for
plan.
A, B, C, right.
They want the master plan. I thought you approved.
Well, we approved the master, no, it's beyond, it's a little bit more detail. You know, now that we have this master plan, what are the steps you're going to take to accomplish? You know, what are some steps you're going to take to accomplish some of these goals?
And how much did we spend last meeting? Because that confused me.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Anything.
You didn't tell him to go ahead and start any.
We had done that actually before. We'd spent, I forget how much we'd given them just to actually go through the grant process.
It was
But last
12,000
week-
or 14,000?
Something like that, yeah. So we actually, that was, part of it is all the meetings they've been doing, all the preparation they've been doing, all the, the work they have to do, drawing up all these plans and everything
Okay.
else. That's covering all of that over the past month and a half or something.
Okay.
And so, again, we won't know if we get that money until September, October, maybe November, something like that.
Okay, that's what was confusing me. Thank you.
Sure. All right, those are all the names on the list, and assuming there's nobody else to speak. We don't have a reason for executive session. Manager comment, Mr. Gray?
Yes, just a few items tonight. First item, board is asked to consider an agreement for the services of Geese Management, BRS, at the community park. Geese Management is a Pennsylvania business whose business involves the use of border collies and lasers to control the Canada geese population.
This sounds funny.
Geese Management will utilize trained border collies and lasers to control Canada geese population in the Township Community Park. The use of the trained border collies would entail releasing the border collies into flocks of Canada geese within the Township Community Park in order to frighten the Canadian geese away from the community park. The use of lasers would entail flashing lights into the pond at nighttime, causing the geese to fly away. The use of border collies and lasers would occur daily. The board is asked to consider this agreement with Geese Management, BRS.
Okay. Comments or questions from board members?
Lasers.
Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, we approved an agreement with S&S Wildlife to do the egg addling and the roundup of geese. This is a company that already operates in the township with actually some Pennsbury properties. And it came to our attention that they're using a different method, which we were aware of. Border collies, essentially highly trained, the most intelligent dogs in the world, basically going out and really going after these geese and just harassing them. It's just harassment, making whatever location so incredibly unpleasant that the geese just don't come back anymore. This company offered to do this work for free. They're interested in helping out. This is something we're doing in conjunction with S&S Wildlife, and it's not costing the township anything. The agreement we're basically approving is just to, we asked them to draw up some insurance documents, of course, so that the township is held harmless in case, there's a kid dressed like a goose walking around when, when one of these border collies is.
Great idea.
So basically, it's a very simple legal agreement that we're allowing them to sort of do this work, and it's we'll see how it works, and doesn't, again, if it's free, why not give it a shot? So comments or questions from board members, Mr. Galloway,
No questions.
Mr. Snipes.
Mr. Clark, basically, what do we need to protect ourselves from or about?
Ms. Gallagher worked on this mostly with
I'm sorry,
with
Ms.
Geese
Gallagher.
Management, but essentially, it is just we're indemnified, we're added as an additional insured. They do have a pretty hefty insurance policy, so if anything were to happen, they would have to indemnify us. Anyone were to sue us, they would have to defend us, and they would have to pay any costs of suit.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dents.
This company, Mr. Rocco, actually was at one of the Pennsbury schools one morning, and he saw a van pull up, a bunch of border collies jump out and chase the geese, and the guy blew a whistle, the dogs came back in, and he flagged them down, and that's, he said, yeah, and he pretty much guaranteed he can keep the geese off the soccer fields. He's not getting rid of the geese, but the dogs are essentially going to train the geese to stay off the soccer fields by harassing them. And he's actually licensed by the Commonwealth to harass geese, which is, this whole business is just comical to me.
Legal harassment.
And lasers at night sounds even funnier, but he says he's going to keep it goose-free, so we shall see.
Okay, any public comment needed? See no hands. Okay, is there a motion then to approve the agreement for the provision of services by Geese Management at the community park in Falls Township?
I'll make
So
the
moved.
motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
My next item for the board to consider is a letter of support to challenge Act 13 of 2012. This newly enacted law preempts local zoning authority over natural gas and oil operations in all municipalities. The act makes it impossible for municipal officials to meet their obligations under the municipality's planning code. The board is asked to consider this letter of support to challenge Act 13.
Okay. And Act 13 has been, I guess, in the news recently regarding the drilling of natural gas, the fracking, as it's called, and other kinds of drilling that's going on from Marcellus Shale. The law passed by the state, as Mr. Gray said, essentially strips townships of any ability to zone. Typically, if a business wants to come in and it's not zoned properly, if somebody wants to come in and buy a huge block of land, houses in Levittown and build a chemical factory, well, they can't because it's not zoned for that. They'd have to come to us, and that would give us the authority to say, no, you can't do that. The law essentially takes that right away from townships and municipalities throughout Pennsylvania. So essentially, any drilling company can come into any spot, any piece of land in the township and start drilling with no approvals from us. And that's, well, it's not necessarily, we're not necessarily against, or all of us, I guess, aren't necessarily against the idea of looking for natural gas. We certainly have to, we feel, protect the powers that we as local elected officials have over our community. We're elected to, in many cases, make these kinds of decisions. What kinds of businesses should go where, what kinds of property should be used for certain things and shouldn't be used for certain things. And to totally strip that right away from this board and other boards, we think is very wrong. This essentially is, again, a letter of support. There are some townships that are suing the state for this. I think Nakamixon is kind of leading the charge, township, and
Yardley?
And I think Yardley's also in on it. I mean, obviously, again, and there is a certain concern about the river and any kind of pollution that might go in the river, and us being a river community. That's something that concerns us, and I know concerns myself, and I'm in support of this. I don't, well, I guess we'll get other board members get their thoughts as well. Mr. Galloway?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, before I came up, I just did a little research on Act 13. I probably knew as much as anyone else about it when it came out back in February. I did read about the 9 municipalities that have filed suit and why, and it's really not a political issue for them. It's in as much as about Marcellus Shale or about fracking. It is. It's exactly as you said. It's about our rights as municipalities. One township manager described it as who wants to build a hotel when a processing plant is going to be situated right behind it, and they have no control over where these things will go. And that's what the objection of the municipalities are. So it sounds like a fine thing to do.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, I wonder if Ms. Gallagher or Mr. Clark could comment on this process on 2 levels. One is, how does the state legally take away from townships the authorities that have been given us by state constitution, or I'm not sure what the legal background, and secondly, where does the authority, or how does the process come along for townships to appeal this, and how does that appealing process to challenge this, and what's the steps for challenging it? What courts does it go to, or how does it get decided?
The very basis of the lawsuit that has been filed is your first question. Zoning is an area, with few exceptions, that is normally reserved to local municipalities. And the belief is that local municipalities should have the ability to control the zoning and the build-out of their township in an orderly manner, as long as it doesn't discriminate, as long as it provides for property owners to use their property in a way that's not harmful to the rest of the population, or is not contrary to the general idea of the way the township wants the comprehensive plan. This law, while it's not likely that we're going to be getting a lot of drilling in falls, the reason why falls may want to become involved in this is a potentially troubling step where the state has said, we are now going to take away a right and a responsibility that has normally been reserved for the local municipalities, and we're going to strip you of your ability to control zoning within your municipality. That is the basis of the lawsuit, and that is the basis. The way to challenge it is what has happened now, is the original, I think somebody said 8, it might be 8 or 9, I don't recall, the 8 or 9 municipalities that have filed the original lawsuit, and now the other ones who will begin to join it in what will be known later on as in an amicus curiae fashion, which means friends of the court. We won't be involved in the day-to-day workings of the lawsuit, but we will be in support, if you approve this, we will be in support of those who are challenging the law.
So does the state have the right to take these powers away from municipalities? And
What was their
how would a
justification?
court, right, what is the justification? How would a court decide one way or the other? I know part of it's curiosity, but part of it is I really don't understand how this will work.
Well, I'm sure that there are those who pass this law who will explain to you why they believe that the state does have this authority. I'm sure that those who are in favor of this and those who have lobbied this legislature to pass this ordinance or this law will tell you that it is a reasonable exercise of state power. There is a difference of opinion, and that is why these municipalities are going to challenge it, and that's why we believe more and more will join in this challenge. And it will be fought the way most of these things are out in the courts. And there is a difference of opinion, and the court will have to rule on it. I think the basis of the challenge is that a right normally reserved to a local municipality cannot be taken away by the state. I think that's the essence of what this lawsuit is. I think what the state will argue is that they are not taking it away, they are just simply restricting it, but it's the difference of opinion.
And what court does this go to? Where does this get argued? Or
I think the original filing here, because it involves the state, I think the original filing is with the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania.
Okay, thank you, that was helpful.
Mr. Dents?
No, I have no comments or questions.
And I have none either. Public comment? See no hands. Okay, is there a motion then to approve this letter of support for the challenge of Act 13?
Yes, absolutely.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Township received a letter from Michael Bradley dated March 27th, representing Superior Motor Service in regards to Graber lumber property located at 218 Lincoln Highway, requesting an extension of time for 60 days on this project until June 23rd, 2012. The board is asked to consider this extension request.
Okay, there's not much question here. Is there a motion to approve the letter, the extension, 60-day extension to June 23rd, 2012?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
My next item, the township received a letter from Jesse Hill representing the Delaware Valley Vietnam veterans, requesting a donation for this event. $6,000 has been budgeted in the Falls Township 2012 budget. Also, a budget has been submitted by the Delaware Valley Vietnam veterans as well. The board is asked to consider a donation to this event. And in last year we donated $6,000 as well.
Okay, yeah, I think we've been donating $6,000 for a while, and it was $5,000 for a little while, and I think we upped it to $6,000 several years ago. This is a very big event, and we're proud to have it here at the Township Park around Flag Day. It's the weekend around Flag Day every year. 58,000 flags are laid out essentially by hand, and it's a very, very big display. It involves all volunteers basically from the Delaware Valley Vietnam veterans. They're veterans themselves, their families, their friends, and it's really in memory. It started out as obviously in memory of Vietnam veterans, but it's expanded out to really veterans of all wars who did not come home. And so I think it's we're proud to have it here, and again we've been supporting it for quite a while. So looking for any comments or questions regarding this request for a donation. Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
No, I hope we do it.
Mr. Dents?
No, none.
I have none. No? Okay. Is there a motion then to approve the donation $6,000 to the Delaware Valley Vietnam veterans?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
My final item tonight, I have a few announcements from the Park and Rec Department. The annual Teen Pasta Dinner will take place on Sunday, April 15th at the Three Arches from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. This year, the Seeing Eye Dog organization will be the beneficiary of this fundraiser. The cost per ticket is $4 for children, 17 and under, and $4 for seniors, ages 55 and up, and $8 for adults, ages 18 to 54. The annual Earth Day event will be held on Sunday, April 22nd at the Falls Township Community Park Phase 2 Pavilion from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. The annual Easter egg hunt will be held on Saturday, April 7th at the Falls Township Community Park Phase 1 Pavilion starting at 2 p.m. There will be face painting, Otto the Balloon Man, and a visit from the Easter Bunny. The spring recreation programs will be starting the last week of April. The Park and Rec Department continues to accept Pinewood Pool membership applications and also summer camp registrations. If you have any questions regarding any Park and Rec matters, please call 215-949-9000, extension 220. And that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to board comment. Mr. Snipes, I'll start with you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to announce for Levittown Fire Company Number 1, Mrs. Kathy Orman, who has worked with them tirelessly for many, probably decades now, and has done a wonderful job, has asked us to announce a number of events coming up that are fundraisers for the fire company. The first is the Easter Flower Sale. That's coming up Thursday, April 5th through Sunday, April 8th. While we're at it, will any of this information go up on the cable access or on the website?
Yes, we'll put that up.
Okay, that'll be great. So check that for the times of the sale, outside, inside, if it's raining. Saturday, April 14th is an oldies but goodies dance. Jerry Blavitt himself will be there, the Geeter with the heater. So this is big stuff. It's $35 a ticket. $35 a person as a buffet, beer, soda, coffee, advance tickets only. And telephone number 215-945-4231 or 215-791-1309. And the last is the 6th annual basket raffle for the fire company. That's Saturday, April 28th, 5 to 9. Drawing starts at 7:30. Admission is $15. And the price includes 20 tickets, light refreshments, and additional chances can be purchased separately. Winners need not be present to win. Same phone number, 215-945-4231, 215-791-1309. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dents?
No, I have no comment tonight.
Mr. Galloway?
Just like to wish everyone a happy Easter. It's going to be beautiful weather this weekend. Get out and enjoy it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just two things. First, just again, mentioned at the beginning of the meeting the tragic fire in Elderberry. And I know, reading from the newspaper, that in talking with the manager who was in contact with the fire marshal, Bristol Township Fire Marshal, who's filling in for our fire marshal for this particular incident, that one of the cause of the blaze seemed to be a misuse of extension cords. That it was apparently a lot of things plugged into an extension cord that really wasn't meant to carry a whole lot of energy, and that's really something to consider. And I know there was another fire, I believe, in a section of Bristol Township that was very similar, an extension cord that was pinched between some furniture, and that started a blaze. It really is something to consider. I mean, in this fire, I believe in Elderberry, from what I can gather, it does appear that some power strips, some surge suppressors were being used, but it doesn't appear that they were plugged in properly. And that's certainly something to consider. We usually talk about extension cords and being safe with them around Christmas time because people having their lights up, and there's all kinds of extension cords traveling all over the place. But it certainly is a cause of a lot of fires nationwide, and we obviously don't want to see another repeat of this kind of tragedy. And our thoughts and prayers go out to the family that suffered this loss, and hopefully, and also check your smoke detectors. That was another thing too, just remembering that this house apparently did not have working smoke detectors. So check those. I think you're supposed to check them every time the clocks change. That was a couple weeks ago, so if you didn't get a chance to check them then, check them now. And, push the button, see if they work. If you're unable to, especially for senior citizens, if you're unable to check your fire extinguisher or check your smoke alarm, or you have an old one, or you want to have one installed under the fire marshal or your local fire department, we'll do that for you. It's something that you'd be happy to do. And so feel free to give them a call or call the fire marshal's office here. I know I've talked to Mr. DiPolito in the past. That's something they will do if you're just unable to put one up yourself. that's something they will do for you. So try and keep everybody in Falls Township as safe as we can. Lastly, just want to make a public notice about a slight change in our agenda. In talking over the past few weeks with other board members, we're looking at a change in the way our agendas are set up. The meeting days are staying the same, first and third Tuesdays. The time is staying the same, 7 o'clock, but we're going to begin to put public comment as our first agenda item. And that'll be general public comment about, other issues, anything that's not on the agenda. We will still accept people's comments on specific agenda items. We've had some requests in the past to do this, and it's been sort of kicked around for a little while. Typically, we like to do some of the other business first because we have people that might come here and have solicitors or engineers who are sort of being paid to sit here if there's some kind of development, some kind of business that's coming in. And public comment first means that they're waiting a little longer, and we're costing that business money. We're trying to be as business friendly as we can because more businesses here mean more jobs for people. But this was an idea that was raised, and we think maybe we'll want to see how it works, and we're going to try it temporarily for a couple months and see if it's something that we want to make permanent. But again, meeting time staying the same, 7 o'clock, but the first agenda item, starting with our next meeting on the 17th, the first agenda item will be public comment, and then we'll move into other agenda items after that. And again, just to restate, you will be able to speak if there's a specific agenda item you want to speak on. Then you would wait for that specific item. Mr. Mariani, Mr. Dell, some of the comments they were making regarding the last meeting by Isles Island, those are the kinds of things for the general public comment, general questions, and maybe announcements and things like that. Okay? So, again, that's for our next meeting. All right? And with that, I thank all the board members for their efforts, and the administration as well, and the professionals, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
58 minutes. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.